What's up guys, today we're going to be taking a look at Emotiva's new reference subwoofer, the Emotiva RS13. Now before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, we cover all things audio and video, like new equipment and new movies. So if you're not a subscriber, then consider tapping that subscribe button for new weekly videos. Alright, let's get it out of the box. As you can see, the subwoofer does come double boxed for protection. Inside, we have the grill, which attaches via magnets here on the top and on the bottom. We get some gloves to keep off the fingerprints, the power cord, and here's the manual. At the time of this video, the RS13 retails for $15.99. It measures 17 inches wide by 22 inches deep by 20 inches high. It's got a satin black finish that should keep those reflections away in a dark room. It's a ported design, but it can be used sealed with the removable foam plug. It's got a response rated down to 21 Hz sealed and 16 Hz ported. It's got a 13-inch driver with a max excursion of 3 inches. Powering the RS13 is a Class D amplifier rated at 1000 watts RMS continuous or 2000 watts peak. Around back are two unbalanced RCA inputs, one balanced XLR in and one XLR out. On top, you'll find the controls behind this tinted plastic cover. There's an adjustable crossover from 40 to 160 Hz, a variable phase knob from 0 to 180, the volume knob, a crossover bypass switch, an EQ switch, and the auto power on setting. For setup, I'll be pairing these with the Trinnov Altitude 16, a Zapiti media player, and an 11-channel Arendal sound speaker setup in my dedicated home theater. For the best possible signal, especially if the subs are going to be a long distance away, you want to hook them up using XLR cables. If your receiver or processor doesn't have XLR connections, then you can just use the RCA inputs. For testing purposes, I turned off any room correction in the processor so I could hear exactly what the subwoofers sound like without any help. Now, being ported subs, I went to a couple of my go-to movies for bass. First up is Godzilla, King of the Monsters in Dolby Atmos. This movie's got gargantuan bass for gargantuan monsters. If your subs can't make it seem like Godzilla is walking in your room, then I think it's time for an upgrade. The RS13s did an excellent job of shaking the room with Godzilla's every footstep. You do get that sensation he's a quarter mile away with some good low-end response. You should feel his footsteps before you actually hear it. When he comes on screen, you'll get that hard-hitting, body-slamming bass. Another great one is the eyeball scene in Blade Runner 2049. This one starts off with a low rumble and gradually builds to a crazy 35 Hz peak, and it just holds there for a couple seconds. Now, if you've heard this film before, it does get surprisingly loud during this part. Both subs played this part without breaking a sweat at reference levels. Next one I threw in was Fury on 4K Blu-ray. It's another go-to for sheer slam. Now, I'll be honest, these do hit hard for a pair of 13s with all the tank fire, but I did just recently review a pair of 15-inch Rels for the same price. I mentioned in that review that for 15-inch subs, that they were the tightest sounding subwoofers that I've had in for review. A big factor for that was that they were sealed. The RS13s can go down lower than the Rels, which gives movie soundtracks that extra sense of space. The Rels can't go quite as low. Now, I'm not saying the Emotivas aren't fast and responsive. Once they are sealed up, the tank shots in this movie can give you a serious kick in the chest. Now, no subwoofer review would be complete without the intro from Edge of Tomorrow. As reference, my daily drivers are a pair of PB16s which sit in the back of my home theater. Together they can move the hair on your arms with some very good infrasonics. Let's see how these 13-inchers do. Now, I didn't think these would put out the same output in the lower frequencies as the larger PB16s, so that really wasn't a surprise given their size. Although, unlike the bigger PB16s, the RS13s don't have any port chuffing when you're pushing them to their limits. I did grab some measurements at my main seat. Having both ports open using the deep setting, I was able to hit 100 dB at 19 Hz. It starts falling off at the specified 16 Hz. Having both ports sealed using the flat setting, I got 93 dB. You can see it's fairly flat. It stops at 70 Hz because that's where I had my crossover set. I should mention that these don't have any kind of app control or room correction built in. That might be important to you, it might not. If you've got a decent enough AVR or pre-pro, then it shouldn't really matter. That being said, these are some wonderful sounding home theater subs, which also performed great in my 2-channel setup as well. I did find the REL 1508s to be tighter and more musical, but if you do use them sealed, they can provide more articulate bass. The strong point of these subs are going to be for home theater duty, and you'll likely want to use them ported for that extra extension for those big action movies. They can't quite give you the ultra low frequencies of bigger subwoofers, but for the majority of my listening, I was impressed overall. I found having the controls on the top of the subwoofer is a fantastic touch. Making adjustments is a lot easier than having to do the reach around. They're also not too big and should fit inconspicuously in most living room home theater setups. Well, those are my thoughts on the Emotiva RS13s. They're a great all-around subwoofer, and I think a worthy contender if you're considering a subwoofer upgrade. So let us know your thoughts on the RS13s. Have you guys heard them, and what did you think? Also, let us know what's on your shortlist for your next subwoofer purchase. Leave a comment down below. As always guys, thanks for watching. If you found this video useful, then give it a like, and if you're not a subscriber, then tap the subscribe button, and we'll see you guys again in the next one.